To be humble, to be kind, it is a giving of the peace in your mind. To a stranger, to a friend, to give in such a way that has no end. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other and nothing more. And to be bold, to be brave, it is the thinking that the heart can still be saved. And the darkness can come quick, the danger's in the anger and in the hanging on to it. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more. And tell me what it is that you see, a world that's full of endless possibilities. And heroes don't look like they used to, they look like you do. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more. We are how we treat each other, nothing more. We are how we treat each other.
morning. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley. I'm Reverend Marcus Liefert and I'm so glad to be with you this Sunday morning. Thanks for being here. If you are visiting with us this morning, I want to offer you especially a welcome. We hope that no matter who you are or how you make your living, no matter whom you love, or how you experience the sacred, you'll feel welcome with us here in the fullness of your being. Everyone's invited to stick around after the service for lunch and conversation. Make your way all the way across the atrium, and you'll see we offer lunch freely each week. Gratitude, as always, to our fabulous kitchen team who makes that happen. Amen. There's always room for more cooks in the kitchen, I hear, so if you can stand the heat. All right. We've got a workshop happening after the service, too, and a newcomer welcome, so you'll hear more about that later from Charis. We know that we gather each week here at the intersection of arts, justice, and spirituality on land that was taken. Land that was the unceded territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people, Huchiyun, and that those of us whose families have not lived here for 10,000 years, we're still guests who've inherited a broken covenant. We hope that we will do our part to repair what has been broken, to live into a new solidarity with indigenous peoples and the land. We have a memory book in the back of the sanctuary. If there's ever something on your heart that you want read aloud, lifted up in our service, you can write it down there, a joy or sorrow, grief or gratitude. There's supercards in the atrium. If there's anything that people in our community who are going through hard times or celebrating and we want to let them know we're thinking of them, I invite you to sign those each Sunday if you're so willing. And you can always light a candle back there too for a silent memory or prayer. This month, we're also keeping these names and memories of our beloved dead with us that we put up on All Souls, Samhain, that holiday known by many names. If you want to add one, you can write the name of someone you're thinking of and a gift you received on the cards at the back table and add them all month long. We'll leave that up. We've been talking this worship series about the webs we weave, and how they get broken and how we have to repair them over and over and over again. And we're still talking about that in this season when we know that many of us are struggling with the news that we're reading, with what's happening in our country. We know that the web is delicate, is fragile, and will require all of our work to mend and take care of it. So we're thinking today about those spaces in between, the way in which we are connected through our separateness. So would you rise in body or spirit? Before we sing our first hymn, I'm going to invite you to just turn around and find a way to reach through that separateness and connect with someone who maybe you don't know yet. Wish them a good morning. Oh, good.
I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What though the tempest round me roars? I know the truth, it liveth. What though the darkness round me close? Songs in the night it giveth. No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging. Since love prevails in heaven and earth, how can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? No prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
Good morning. Oh, that felt good. I am Andrea Brewer-Thompson, and I'd like to invite Lisa and Phil Maynard forward to light our chalice. Let us kindle our chalice flame with these words by Monica Jacobson, Tennessee. What is it that calls you here, that calls you onward, that calls you inward, that leads you homeward? What is it that gives you the power to make that change, to ask that question, to take that journey? What is it that says you have done well, that asks you to learn more, that brings you to stillness, that holds you up in hard times? It is relationship, the beating heart of our faith. It begins when we share this hour, our truths, this air, our hearts. Come, let us worship together.
The courage of a dreamer, the innocence of youth, the failures and the foolishness that that leads us to the truth. The hopes that make us happy. The hopes that don't come true. And all the love that ever was. I see this all in you. I see this all in you. We are part of the human heart. You are part. You are part tonight of all who took the journey and managed to endure. The ones who knew such tenderness, the ones who felt so sure, the ones who came before you, the others yet to come, and those who you will teach it to, and those you learned it from. You are part of the human heart. You are part. You are part. This is the gift I give. Through your love, you live forever. You are part of the human heart. You are part. You are part tonight. Tonight. Part of the human heart.
Last week after the service, we had this workshop where my colleague, Reverend Sam Wilson, came and did a little activity with yarn with us. And it was so fun, I thought we should do it with everybody. Raise your hand if you were there for that workshop. We have a few plants. Okay, good. So you're ready. You're going to call out some answers here. Because the question that we started with, well, this is a slight variation on the question. You have to ask one of those people who raised their hand what the real question was. The question is, we talk about interdependence all the time, this idea that everything's connected. But how do you know that that's really true? How do you really, really know that interdependence is real and not BS is the word she used, but not that way. Okay, so, Catherine, how do you know? How do you know interdependence is really real?
Whew. That's a really, really big question, right? I think about it all the time. And I don't have an answer right this moment, and so I guess I could use some help in thinking about how do you know that we really depend on each other more than we even know. So if you're willing, maybe you could just turn to the person next to you and come up with a quick answer. I'll give you like 15, 20 seconds. Just feel free to talk in church, people. Talk in church. How do you know?
How do you know? Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's enough talking in church. Okay, so if somebody would like to yell out, and you get to yell in church today too, so this is just another great thing. Somebody want to yell out an answer? How do we know?
Maybe somebody up close here. Food! The food we eat.
So I'm going to unravel this. I'm going to throw it to you. Okay, and you want to unravel it some more? And somebody else have an answer? Singing. You want to toss it to her?
Oh,
Okay,
great.
that happens. Don't let go of your thread. Okay, all right, sorry. Somebody else, maybe on that side.
What do you got? Smiling. Well, the way it feels in your body when you see somebody else smile at you. Or we're doing perfect. So you're just going to hold on to a piece, and then throw it. There you go. And this is going to get messy. And ain't that the truth? Right? Okay, so yeah, hold on to a piece and throw it on over there. Yeah, hold on tight.
You got it.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll figure it out. Grab a piece. Okay, there you go. Let's hear a few more. Why don't you just keep tossing around and we'll just call a few more out. Hope. Friendship. Oh, you got to remember to hold on to a piece. That's the tricky part of this game. Hold on to a piece. What else? Babies. Yeah. And where they come from. Togetherness. Running water. Wow, yeah, right? Nature. Know it in your bones because you've broken a few. Yeah. Atoms. These atoms that none of the atoms in our bodies are the same as they were 7 years ago or something like that. Yeah.
Really?
So every 7 years we get a complete turnover of everything in our body. That's what I understand. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. Just anyone. Just keep throwing it. We're gonna keep passing around. We're gonna add another layer here because it's okay. This blue one is true, and we're gonna just keep it going as much as you can. Just keep going. You can do it right near you. You can. Oh yeah, there you go. Fun. All right. So this second layer, we're gonna add a yellow one. While you keep the blue one going out there, get it to as many people as we can in about 2 minutes. Okay. The yellow one is, how do we take care of the reality of our connection? We're all connected. What are the promises that we make in order to take care of being connected?
Be nice.
Be nice? Yeah, exactly. Let's start it right here with M. So you're going to grab and hold a piece of it. Grab and hold a piece of it, and then you're going to throw it to somebody else.
I see a hand.
Compromise. Okay, see if you can get all the way over there, Em. That's going to be tricky. All right. Wow, nice.
Nice job.
So we're going to keep passing the blue one while we pass the yellow one here. Same thing. We're going to hold a piece. These promises, the covenant. Maybe you know a line from the covenant that we have made in our community about how we're going to show up and care for one another. Anybody got one of those lines?
I'd like to say people in the back probably would love some yarn too.
Oh.
You got this?
Call it out again. Faith. Oh yeah. So we kind of make this covenant around. We're gonna hold on to faith together. Empathy. Our empathy is that one of these ways that we tend to the connection. In school, these might look like the rules that we have. So we're going to keep passing that yellow strand of covenant, of promises, of all the context of the relationships that we end up in, these scripts that we play out, the way we know how to relate to each other, and the way we relate to each other differently based on who we are. Perfect. Now we're having fun. Okay. Red. We're going to add one more layer.
One more layer.
This is about what each of us has the power to make choices that can help or hurt this web of connection we're making. Can you think of a way that you make choices that help or hurt the web? Yeah? What's a choice you make? You could take the scissors and cut them. That would just chop right through it. What are some other examples of ways that people have different kinds of power, can make different kinds of choices? Yeah, Dave?
Oh, I let go of the end.
Do the right thing. Doing the right thing is a choice to take care of the web. Yeah. What other ways do people have power to make choices? Being fair.
Big throw. Big throw.
Paying your taxes, or refusing to pay your taxes, maybe. All right, yeah. Apologizing. Yeah, making an apology, making amends. We've been talking about that. Yeah. Listening deeply, the way we practice in our small group ministries. Yeah. Not listening. There's another choice, right? Using your power. Kindness. Service. Forgiveness. Yeah. Are there people who have power here? Let me see if we got a couple of these red. Who's holding on to the red over here?
Oh, Marcus, we're getting trapped in the web.
Okay, this happens, doesn't it? So let's see. Can I take the red for a second? Because you've given me here. You can hold on to a piece of it. You've given me quite a bit of power here. It's stuck. Oh, look at what I did. Oh no. A strong minister. That's trouble. Are there other people who have power here because of the role that they have? Anybody up here have power because of the role you're in? Oh, Pierre. Pierre's over here. Look at that. Here, Pierre. Here, why don't you take a strand of this? And anybody, how about somebody have power just not because of the role, but just kind of like who they are, or how long they've been here?
Yeah, I think they're on the
Oh, Marin. Oh, yeah, here, let me get you one too. Here. Okay, so now here's the thing. What if you, Pierre and Marin, you wanted to just go ahead and disagree for a second? Why don't you give a little pull on that? You want to give a little pull on that red one, Marin? Oh, it's already too, yeah, it's there. And then you can get a little, it gets a little messy, doesn't it? And one thing I know is that we all, in our religion, we believe everyone has choice, everyone has power. And in fact, the congregation as a whole, you are the ultimate authority in our tradition. And so if you didn't, decide you didn't like my ministry, you could just fire me, and I'd just go away. But you can't actually get rid of me, can you? There's that thread. No matter how far apart we end up, no matter what happens to the shape of our web and connections, they don't go away. There is no away. So I'm going to ask one of you, Em, would you take this, and on your way out, when we sing the kids out right now, and you might have to rise in body or spirit, lift those webs up high, why don't you just take that with you so we know, even when you're out there, we're still connected to you.
Okay.
Beautiful. We're just going to leave all that tangled mess all just draped around us for now. We'll do something with it later.
Good morning again. I'm Andrea Brewer-Thompson. And when Marcus said something a couple months ago about the spaces between in my life, I felt like a bolt of lightning came towards me. It was like, oh yes, that's been a really powerful and profound source of growth and healing and joy in my life, and also some pain. But I wanted to share with you today a couple of ways that the spaces between in my life have been healing and transformative. So I grew up in a home that was chaotic, violent, unpredictable, and fearful. That being said, there was also some joy and some love. But I had these really painful experiences in my life. And I realized at around age 20 that I was on a path not to survive. Not because I was going to do anything consciously, but just because I had so many self-destructive behaviors, and I didn't know how not to be that way. So that was approximately 50 years ago. And I made the decision then that I was going to learn how to become a healthy human being. And I don't think that would have done it for me, except for I also realized I had to make that the number one priority in my life. And it has been. So out of that, I came to realize that part of what I wanted was not just the inheritance of the trauma and drama, but I also wanted to know how to return to having an open heart. And this is actually like returning again and again and again to having an open heart. And so the story I want to tell you about this morning is about my mother and my father, because this was one of the territories where I finally came home and learned how, again, to have an open heart through staying sometimes for very long periods of time in the spaces between. So I had a father who was, he was in prison for rape, kidnapping, etc. He was violent, he was dangerous. And I knew all of that, and we live in a world that tends to say, oh, well, these people are good and those people are bad. But I also had some sense of what he grew up with and what might have brought him to, besides drugs, alcohol, etc., brought him to the place where he was. So I felt like I had this tremendous conflict inside of me, because on the one hand, I wanted to be somebody who could love other people, especially maybe somebody like my father. And on the other hand, his behavior was dangerous, it was hurtful, it was illegal, and it was unacceptable. So this is an example of a place that I found myself in over and over again in my life, where I have held two things to be true. One is that I love this person. The other is that this behavior is completely what many would say unlovable. And each time I end up in this kind of place, or maybe I have a belief, but my experience is different. But whenever I end up with this kind of conflict inside, what my culture has taught me to do is a quick fix. To fix it like an engine. Grab some tools, grab some screws or bolts or whatever and fix the part that's broken and move on. But it's probably easier to fix a car than it was to fix my heart. So through many years and many wanderings and explorations and searchings, I got to the point where I really was committed to finding a way to be at peace with inside myself. And I was very afraid of my father. I also loved him. I cut off contact. I did not see him for the last 15 years of his life. But I also knew there was this big hole inside of me. Oh, I am the girl who has no father. I am the girl who doesn't have a family. And what I did was I came to realize that there are some things in the world that I could absolutely trust and hold on to. Well, one of them is 12-step meetings, that they would always be there. But the other was things in nature. And so I made the choice that I realized I was never going to have the mother or the father that I needed and wanted. But I could develop a relationship with Father Sky and Mother Sea. And I spent years very consciously and actively trying to build a relationship with these entities in nature that I knew would never disappear. They're always going to be here, long past when I am. You know, they may have their tumultuous moments, but there's also enormous beauty there. And I'm saying this because out of being able somehow, with a lot of support, to stay in that place of unknowing. Do I love my father? Do I reject everything that he represents? What do I do with this entangled mess inside of myself? Through years and years of working on this, I came to a place where I actually love my father deeply and have respect for those things that really deserve respect, and had a healthy boundary, decided not to see him, and instead found another father that I could turn to when I needed some fathering. With my mother, it was slightly different. I grew up with her, and it was very difficult. And as an adult, it was still difficult. I'm sure she would say the same. And at some point, her doctor called and told me that she had cancer and wasn't likely to live for, a very long time. So for the last 3 years of her life, I hopped on an airplane once every week or two and flew up to Portland, Oregon to spend a day with her and help her with chemo or laundry or whatever. But we didn't have space for her here. We didn't have money to create an alternative space for her. And I was really committed to trying to find some way that I could come to a place where I could love my mother truly and unconditionally, but also own my own truths. And one day, after almost 3 years, I was finally able to find that place, and I said, Mom, I have come to the realization that you and I are on the same relay team of healing, of multi-generational healing. You gave us better than what you got. And I will be able to give my children better than what I got. And they will be able to give their children better than what I was able to give them. It was really hard and painful growing up. But I know we are on the same team together. And I love you.
You can remain seated for the next hymn. It's From You I Receive. And I learned recently this was written by two brothers, both rabbis. Susan Mashiyama is going to be accompanying us on this one.
you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Invite you to take a deeper breath, to settle more deeply into this place, into your seat, to feel your connection down to this good, this holy earth. To move inward with me. In Portuguese, the word for hammock, I mean the hammock that I slept in each night on a balcony at the foot of a sugarloaf mountain in Rio, is rede. Rede, that is hammock, net, a netting, network, internet, the web. At camp, we'd toss that ball of yarn, calling out plant or a creature. You catch it and you slip the yarn around your wrist, and you're part of the web now. You will call out the name of another living thing, one that relies on that which has already been named as you toss the yarn across the circle, and so we weave the web of life. And at the end, cut the strands to go about our days with just a twist of yarn around the wrist to remind us of the invisible web we are ever caught up in. Hummingbird flits through a salvia on the street corner, flashing emerald green and a hint of pink. The phone buzzes and rings, alerting to summons from distant sources. The school sends a letter. The teachers and students need funds, supplies, assistance. Some days we cannot get out of bed before the web starts tugging. Some nights our minds race as we try to untangle the knots we've found ourselves bound up in. And sometimes it feels like we are in free fall, the net so remote we cannot even feel a wisp of yarn around the wrist. O God that is in the weaving and the spaces in between, of whom we are strands that can never be severed, hands that can never stop stitching, emptiness that can never stop breathing, remind us we are held. Reveal our connectedness at the dinner table, in all the places and people, the whole more than human world that shows up in every bite. In the conversation with its layers of history, its tangles of relationship, remind us that the sweetness of connection is not possible without its capacity to tug and twist, to chafe and constrain. Give us courage to know that even in the vast complexity of the endless web, mostly we are held by empty space. Mostly it is space between the stars, emptiness in the atoms, a great deal of nothing that flows between all that captures our attention. May we rest now in this moment in the spaces in between, in stillness, in quiet, held as we are in this network of being, a holy hammock of all that is. In this community of care and witness, we hold one another through the seasons of our lives and lift up those joys and sorrows among us. With Brent Ducker, we're sending love and prayer for Sandy as she faces cancer with courage and faith. With Francie Liefert, my mom, and with the UU Church in Oakland, I mourn the passing of Kathy Cade. She was a dedicated civil rights worker from the 1960s, a pioneer in lesbian rights, a photographer of the social justice movement, and a wise and loving friend. With Phoebe, we lift up all victims in the Middle East conflict, especially the people of Gaza. And with Catherine Welch, heartfelt prayers that we may each in our own hearts discover the fierce and infinite love that allows us to act bravely in service of those in need and be touched and fed by every moment of simple beauty that gifts itself to us with such astonishing and abundant generosity. For this which we have named, for all that yet remains in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts here in this room, and with all those joining us from afar, may we know that what each of us holds is held in the loving embrace of this community, and by a love beyond all naming, a love that cannot and will not let us go. May it be so, and amen. One of the most influential writers in my life, especially my early life growing up, was Ursula K. Le Guin, our local hero. A lot of us, imagine, love her work. And there was a story of hers, a short story that I was introduced to in high school that I've gone back to over and over in my life. It's called The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. It begins with this scene of a parade. It's a glorious parade coming down a city that is gleaming, sparkling with joy. She talks about joy over and over again, this hallmark of this city, Omelas, that all the people are filled with joy, but not in a saccharine, happy kind of a way, in a deep down, they know their lives are good kind of a way. And everything seems to kind of work out all right in this city. She gives a lot of flexibility. She kind of says, imagine it however you want. It's kind of a feminist, socialist utopia. And then she catches herself and says, maybe you can't believe this city is real. Does this sound too good to be true? So she says, well, let me tell you the secret of what's going on. Down in a basement in this beautiful, perfect city, locked in a little closet, there's a child who is living in the most abject poverty, absolute filth, neglect, aloneness. This horrible, she just goes on and on about just how awful it is, the living conditions of this child. And the truth, the secret truth of the city is that everybody knows it. Everybody enjoying this joyful, beautiful place, well-functioning, utopian city knows that it all relies on the suffering of this one child hidden away in the basement. In fact, it's the coming-of-age ritual of the city. People are taught about this, know about it growing up, and then sometime when they're old enough, they're brought down to come face to face, to see the reality of the suffering that the joy of this city depends upon. And everyone, of course, reacts with big feelings. People are angry, rageful. People are heartbroken and upset. People are depressed. But in months or years, they come to terms with it, the people of Omelas. They make their peace with this reality. Because they're told, they know that if any of them were to go and help this child, to do something to bring them out of this situation, it would break the magic. The whole joy of the city would fall apart. And so couldn't they really in any way justify ruining the lives of everyone else in the city in order to take care of this one child? But then she says, at the very end of the story, there are those who, when they meet this child, or occasionally, decades later in life, realize there is another choice. And they walk away. She says they don't know what's out there. Nobody knows that there even is something out there to walk to out beyond the city of Omelas. But she says, as the last line of the story, they seem to know where they're going, those who walk away from Omelas. It's a parable that stuck with me, I think, because of the way it speaks to this absolute dilemma of our interconnectedness. And there's nothing that brings that dilemma like close to home like the suffering of children. And so I think about this at children's birthday parties. You might have heard me say, I think that all of the great theological questions are right there at children's birthday parties. It was Henry's birthday party yesterday, and luckily it was a minimal suffering of children birthday party. But it happens. I remember one in particular when Henry was in kindergarten, and it was just coming back from the pandemic. Everybody was really nervous to meet each other. It was midway through kindergarten year, and we were parents whose kids had been together for quite a while, had never met, and we were all getting together at a park, and gray skies, kind of a windy day. I remember the wind blowing the wood chips into the hummus, and it was a bad omen from the start, I guess. And so as we're nervously getting to know each other, we're all alerted, thus parents sitting around by the screaming cries of discontent from the children across the way. And so we all rush over with our anxious parent bodies, and we all get on close to the kids, who we see one little girl, blonde little girl, is laying on the ground crying. It turns out that this bigger boy with a kind of a mohawk brown flop of hair has just shoved her to the ground, but it turns out he did that because she, along with most of the rest of them, were teasing him, and he's got tears streaking his face too. And this flock of anxious parents is descending, trying to tend to this messy web of interrelated connectedness. I asked my child about it. Once I'm clear, my child was not part of the teasing. Well, then I say, so what could you do, when something like this is happening? And in what was obviously a well-rehearsed answer, an answer that had been taught very specifically by the teachers at his school, he replies, "Walk away." And it doesn't quite live up to the imagining I'd had of lead my community into a new, bold, covenantal way of loving one another through challenging conflict. But he was 6 years old, and walk away was probably more appropriate. But the tears didn't end there. That was just the beginning. Pretty soon, those helium-filled balloons, all the rituals of the day happened. All of the rituals, those ways that the yellow thread is woven among us to keep us holding our connections and the dilemmas they bring. So we have the ritual of the balloons, the helium balloon, the slip knot that I've never really been able to figure out how to tie. It slips right off of one of the kids, and the balloon goes floating up into that gusty wind, and the tears start going. But then her sister, she comes and brings over her balloon and gives it to her. And immediately it's like the sun has come out, the tears go away, and she gives back a piece of chocolate from you I receive, to you I give. Mending is happening, but before you know it, the great big birthday balloon, the one that led us to find the right spot, the sparkling mylar unicorn in the sky, well, that one is being given to the birthday kid. And Dad somehow managed to fumble it in the transition from the fence to the kid's wrist, and off goes the bright, sparkling unicorn. And birthday kid is just sobbing on the ground while all of us try and talk about, the unicorn going off into the sky to join its, unicorn friends. And before you know it, we've created this whole theology, this mythology of where unicorns go, and Mars gets it. I don't know why we get to Mars, but the unicorn is going to join all the other unicorns on Mars. And birthday kid is not having any of it, sobbing on the ground. And my kid comes, and they were best friends at the time. He brings and hands them his balloon. And that helps, but the story does end with that balloon floating away too. It really was a miserable, miserable birthday party. We are connected with one another and with all that is around us in ways beyond what we can imagine. The truth of that interdependence, the truth of that blue layer, that first layer that says this is the nature of reality, this is the basis of our theology. That truth is not just a warm and fuzzy knowing we're connected, it is also the truth that we inevitably hurt one another, are impacted by the world around us and in turn impact it. And so we develop these layers, these promises, these ways of being, these expectations, these covenants, these rules, these systems, this yellow layer of connectedness to try and tend to the fragility of our web. And we inherit some of those rituals and practices and expectations and promises that are good and healthy for us, and we inherit others that are broken and that are leaving some less connected, that are tending to some relationships and not to others. And then each of us has agency here, has the power, this red last thread around, to make choices that impact our promises and the web of reality underneath. Interdependence is the nature of reality, and love is its ethical calling on each of our lives to respond. This is our Unitarian Universalist understanding. We talk often about spiritual growth. We say every week in our mission that we are here to inspire spiritual growth, but I have a hunch that we don't actually have any idea what that means. I don't know. Do you? Do you know what spiritual growth is? I'm trying to figure it out. I think one hallmark of it, of spiritual maturity, is the recognition, the ability to take responsibility for one's own choices in how they impact the web. To get out of that younger, more immature paradigm of controlling and being controlled, and into one of a self-responsibility for one's inevitable impact on all we're connected to. The problem is it's so much easier to just stay in that reactive control and be controlled, seek vengeance, get back at them way, than to feel the pain that would lead us into a more mature responsibility for our impacts. That system of blame and punishment that would teach us that's what accountability means. That accountability is about blame and punishment. Pulls us away from the spiritual maturity that's necessary to deal with the complexity of our interrelatedness and what is maybe an ever-growing complexity in our times. There's a marriage and relationship therapist you might know, Esther Perel, who has some wisdom about this. She says, love rests on two pillars, surrender and autonomy. Our need for togetherness exists alongside our need for separateness. One doesn't exist without the other. With too much distance, there can be no connection, but too much merging eradicates the separateness of two distinct individuals. Then there's nothing more to transcend. No bridge to walk on, no one to visit on the other side, no internal world to enter. When people become fused, when two become one, connection can no longer happen. There's no one to connect with. Therefore, separateness is a precondition for connection. So to answer this call of love, this ethical imperative of how we relate to our interconnectedness, requires us to trust those spaces in between, requires us to back up and get that distance, maybe like unicorns living on Mars, to see from a further vantage point our interrelatedness in a way that acknowledges both our connection and our separation. And, she's talking about romantic relationships, of course, but I think we can apply that wisdom to all of our relationships, and in fact, to our call to make love real in public. Cornel West says, justice is what love looks like in public. And so if we were going to take this seriously and imagine, what does it mean to relate to the systems of our world in a way that creates more justice? It might begin with the capacity to be caring deeply of oneself. Because that separateness, that ability to care and tend to the ground of one's own being, is what enables us to relate to the web of interconnectedness with love. It's the place where every one of us, no matter what quality or quantity of power we have in that red layer, every one of us starts with our power to care for our own being, our own self, our own emotional reality, to take responsibility and accountability for how we impact the web. That means that sometimes when we are dealing with the spaces in between, our love looks more like a fight. There was an interview with Keanu Reeves and Drew Barrymore, and Drew Barrymore is fending him off, saying, no, I'm a lover, not a fighter, and Keanu Reeves says, no, I don't accept that, because if I'm a lover, I have to be a fighter. And she says, what do you mean? And he says, if I love something, and he gets a nice deep voice and makes it, really sexy, but he says, if you love something, then you have to fight for it. And I do think that this time we live in will require fighting for things. One of my favorite contemporary authors is Nora Jamieson. And she talks about the ones who stay and fight as a response to Le Guin's story. She writes this homage to the ones who walk away from Omelas, and she imagines a similarly utopian city, but in the end she says that instead of there being a child whose suffering is what the whole thing rests on, instead these social workers, she calls them, are there to protect the city from the influence of ideas that would undermine the whole project. And so when somebody gets an idea like they're better than other people, their differences set them apart in a way that elevates their worth and denigrates that of others, in Jamieson's story, the social workers come and quickly and humanely execute them. Because that idea is so toxic, so infectious, so evil, that the only proper response is to exile it and keep it from infecting their city. She ends with the image of the daughter of this man who'd been infected with these ideas, who they'd just killed, these social workers. And the social workers see that the daughter has also been infected with these ideas, and they are not sure what to do. They look at one another and decide the only path forward for her will be to become a social worker as well. So don't walk away, she says. The child needs you too, don't you see? You also have to fight for her, now that you know she exists. or walking away is meaningless. Here's my hand. Take it, please. She makes it stark, so painfully brutal, but the question really is one that all of us have to face. How will you use your power to impact the web of our promises, the reality of our connectedness? What is love's call on you? Let us love in public. Let us love in public by showing up and connecting with others across difference. Let us love in public by standing up for the possibility of disagreement without polarization. Let us love in public by surrendering to the world as it actually is. Surrendering while gripping fiercely to an autonomy that tells us things don't have to be this way. Let us love in public by making choices that reflect the truth that every soul matters. Let us love in public by celebrating and accepting and appreciating our differences. Let us love in public, and let us love in private, making out of struggle joy. May it be so, and amen.
I'm Piers Sunho, and I'm the co-president of your Board of Trustees. In our covenantal community, we share the responsibility of pursuing our mission of giving generously of our time, talent, and treasure. I invite you to support the work of our church by giving electronically, by scanning the QR code on the back of your badge, or by putting a check or cash donation into the donation envelope that you'll find at the back of the pew in front of you, and then putting it in the donation box beside the fountain in the atrium as you leave service. Each week, half of our offering is shared with a nonprofit Good Neighbor organization. The Good Neighbor organization for this month is No More Tears, a violence and crime prevention program founded by men incarcerated at San Quentin and concerned citizens seeking to remedy the rise of violent crime in their communities and reduce recidivism rates of returning citizens. Will you join me in rededicating ourselves to our mission? We dedicate our offering and ourselves to the mission of this congregation to create loving community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service. Thank you.
Hola, buenos días. My name is Charis Tomador, and I'm your Connections Coordinator. If you're new to our church and you'd like to learn more about how to get connected, I invite you to our monthly newcomer Q&A right here on this chancel right after the service. You can just walk right up and I'll be here waiting for you. To find out what's happening in the life of our community, you can always check the news link on the homepage of our website, where you'll find our weekly email newsletter, The Week Ahead, which includes a list of activities, announcements, and contact information. This week, I want to especially lift up that today, after the service in the fireside room, you're invited to a special presentation sponsored by the Honoring Indigenous Peoples group titled Entanglement: What Does It Mean to Live on Stolen Indigenous Land in the 21st Century? The Humanist Connections discussion for today will be on the topic, What is Truth?, led by Paul Ulbrich, starting at 1 p.m. in the Saphir Room, and everyone is welcome. Today and next Sunday, we're laying out the contents from our Lost and Found closet. It is brimming with your items. Please come collect them. And you can visit the food drive table right outside the sanctuary doors. All donations will go to the Richmond Emergency Food Pantry. Thank you.
Let's rise, embody your spirit, and while we sing our last hymn, if you want, or afterward, you can cut a little wisp of that yarn and keep it around your wrist as a reminder of your connection to this beloved community this week. connected with one another or to those big spaces out there in between us all, remember the truth that we are one body. We depend on each other more than we know. And may we also know we can depend on ourselves, perhaps more than we know. May it be so, and amen.